Morning from the West Coast. I'm in California today for some masterminding and coaching on my business, on my life today. So the subject I wanted to bring up was, are you good enough? Do you think you're good enough to push yourself to the next level that you're trying to get to? You might not have a next level. You might not care to grow. You might not care to have a better life or expand yourself, but probably not really talking to those people. But if you have ambition, if you want to get better at something that you do, whether it's just your life in general, or if you want to make more money, or if you want to do better in your business, if you want to do better as an employee, even if you do a sport, if you play a sport, do you want to get better? Of course, we all want to get better. So how do you do that? Well, we usually have an idea of what we need to do ourselves, but can we really do it all ourselves? You know, are we that ignorant to believe that we have all the skills, knowledge, and intelligence, wisdom, and understanding to really get to the next level? I mean, to me, if you think about that question, it's actually pretty easy, because the answer is no, because if you did, you would already be there, right? I mean, you're already at the place of getting there on your own, all by yourself. You're already there. That is where you currently stand. Up to this point, you have done it by yourself and with whoever you've chosen to help you along the way. Maybe some people have stepped up and helped you without you even asking, but this is where you are today. So think back on how you got really good at the things that you're good at. Has anybody helped you to get there? Did you have any coaches? Did you have any people around you? Did you have any teams, whether they were actually working for you, with you, or actually participating in your team, or just helping you and giving you encouragement? So if you think about it like that, you have to ask yourself, well, why would I not use experts, coaches, other individuals who are like-minded that may probably know more than me or different things than me or have different experiences than me that might help me? Why wouldn't I use that and integrate that into my standard of living? Just into the way that I normally operate on a day-to-day basis. So I'm talking about that today because that's what I'm doing today. That's why I'm out here in California. And I'm gonna meet with my business coach and my mastermind group. And I'm gonna get some input on myself. And I'm gonna actually help some other people as well by giving my input on them whenever they ask for it or whenever I see that they need it. And if I go and think back on myself and my journey through this current group that I'm in, I've been in it for over 5 years, but I've been in it in different levels, various levels. So the program or the group that I participate in, you can choose to participate in at different levels. And so what I mean by that is there's an online curriculum that you can follow that gives some guidance that is very, I would say surface level, like the basics, like you should do A, B, C, and D. And it's up to you to follow it all. It's just a framework. So there's that. Then there's this small group model where you get put into a group with other people who are at the same level as you in terms of the amount of time or the amount of things that they've done to kind of prove themselves within these methods around planning and things like that, and daily disciplines. Then there's a more advanced group that has been doing the work for years, and even a higher level than that, there's one-on-one, more focused time with our actual business coach that you can get. So as I've gone through this over the years, I've realized I've had to graduate more and more and more into these next levels. But what's interesting to me is you do a couple things. You watch yourself kind of go in and out of these programs. So a lot of times what happens with coaches is you feel like you get what you need and then you leave. So it's like you're trying for like this quick fix. That's what you have to realize when this happens. I see people come and go from these groups all the time. I was one of those. I left this group for a period of time back in 2019, 2018, 19, something like that. And when I left, I did okay for a while, and then I got off track. Then I stopped doing the daily work, the weekly work, the quarterly work. I wasn't doing it as consistently. And as time wore on, I realized that the people involved, being around the people that were pursuing the same types of things that I was pursuing, had a tremendous effect on my willingness to be consistent in doing the work. So that told me something major, that leaving that environment was risky. Going out on my own was risky to myself. It actually was a detriment to my ability to produce the results that I was looking for in different areas of my life. And the funny thing about that is that none of these people are doing the work for me. I still have to do all the work. But there's something about running with other people that brings your accountability to yourself. Nobody wants to be falling behind. If you're running with a pack and they're going at a certain speed, your body is going to try to keep up with them. But if you're sitting there all by yourself, it's harder to get up and run. Likewise, from a coach's perspective, if the coach is far ahead of you, they're going to do what they can using their skills, talents, abilities, all the wisdom and knowledge they have to pull you, to get you to go faster, to get you to get closer to them. So what can happen is, if you're in a coaching relationship, you're using an expert, a couple things could happen. One is you give up. People do that all the time. What happens when you give up is your commitment comes into question, and it's your commitment to doing the work, really. Number two is you're not really committed to the expert. You're more committed to yourself. So you realize you think you might want to get help, but really your ego is still too big enough. So you're not coachable. So you have to ask yourself if you're coachable. So over the course of a relationship with a coach, though, you could and should get better. Again, you have to do the work, right? So say, for example, your coach tells you something and you do it and it doesn't work. Okay, that's great. It's not your coach's fault. Your coach isn't doing the work for you. He's giving you some ideas and helping you make the decision. But all that you do is say, okay, let's try another iteration of this. But if your coach, it tells you to do something and you don't do it, and then you quit, that's not the coach's fault. The coach doesn't give you any results. You give yourself the results. The coach is just giving you guidance. He's trying to help you. And a great coach is going to help you get better at your own level of self-awareness and your own ability to assess yourself and make pivots and changes. But a coach is not a motivator. They're not. They should not be a motivator. Motivators are motivators. If you need motivation, that is something that you need to pursue yourself and figure out why you're not motivated. Songs are not motivators. Songs can get you pumped up to do a workout, help get your heart rate flowing and things like that. They will not drive you forward in the long run. You need purpose. You need a purpose that motivates you. So the other thing that can happen is you outgrow your coach. This isn't a bad thing. So this happens, I do think that some coaches, probably most actually, don't have any numbers to back this up, but a lot of coaches probably you should only be with for a period of time. It may be a couple years. If they're good, it should be a couple years. If they're not that good, it's probably or I should say, if it's shorter period of time, it's probably someone who you're going to for some small specific thing. But let me use business coaching for example. That's what part of what I do and part of what I am here for today. And a business coaching relationship can end if you start to get to the level of your coach. And that's one thing to look for. Is your coach consistently improving? If your coach is consistently improving, that's a really good thing. And that's what I see in mine, is that he's always expanding, always changing, and there's parts of that can be frustrating, but if you understand why that is happening, and if he's continuing to see fruit from what he's doing, then you want to take note of that in your mind and say, oh wait, he's not just teaching me his method and getting me to do his method. He's evolving himself, and his method is evolving. So I can either resist that or I can go with it. And for me, I've learned to go with it. There were periods where I would get frustrated in years past. But what I've learned is that all of that was there to help me learn to own my own stuff. Am I going to stay with this coach forever? I don't know. Probably not. Forever is actually, that's a definite no. That wouldn't make any sense. At some point, you've got to take full ownership for leading yourself. And there might be another coach someday. There might be somebody that's more specific to what I do. I do think that should evolve over time. But coming back to the initial question of, do you think you can do it all on your own? What are your goals? What are your aspirations? And how are you doing that? And do you have a plan? Do you have the discipline to pursue that every single day? Do you have a method to that? Do you have a system? If you don't have that, you're already screwed. It's not going to work. You're not going to be able to do it by yourself. So next, let's say you have that and you're doing it by yourself. Here's why I would say you're still wrong. You're still wrong, because what you think you can do on your own is probably currently limited. That's where I'll end it with. So think about your willingness to hire, pay for, specifically in a business, somebody to help you with what you're trying to achieve. And even if you're an individual, even if you work for somebody, or if you're just pursuing a hobby or a sport or something like that, do you really want to get good at it? Your level of commitment is shown by your willingness to invest time and money. It's that simple. It's that simple.